The original vision for the quantum age was surprisingly simple. These machines are impossibly complex, requiring massive dilution refrigerators and laser-cooled vacuum chambers. The assumption was that tech giants would maintain the hardware, while the world logged in via remote access to run calculations in the cloud. But today, the most advanced research centers on Earth are doing the exact opposite. They are actively pulling their operations off the public cloud and locking these systems inside physical, localized rooms. The driver behind this massive infrastructure panic is Q-Day, the theoretical date when a quantum computer becomes powerful enough to shatter modern cryptography. Over the past few years, the timeline for that date has drastically compressed. This data visualization shows the changing estimates for the computing power required to break encryption. We used to assume it would require millions of physical qubits. But a 2026 breakthrough from Caltech and Oratomic proved that neutral atom hardware can run code-breaking algorithms with as few as 10,000 physical qubits. The required threshold plummets down by 2 entire orders of magnitude. Google's quantum AI team followed up with their own math. They demonstrated that on a superconducting architecture, it takes fewer than 500,000 qubits to recover a standard ECC 256 private key. At that scale, the encryption breaks in about 9 minutes. Because of these rapid mathematical efficiencies, Google accelerated its own internal cryptographic migration deadline to 2029. When the timeline to compromised encryption drops from decades to years, the public cloud becomes an immediate, glaring security vulnerability. Beyond security, there is a strict physical ceiling limiting cloud performance, known as the latency gap. This is a hard speed limit imposed by the laws of physics, completely independent of standard network bandwidth. Looking at this map, you can see how a hybrid algorithm actually works. A classical supercomputer generates parameters, sends them to a quantum processor thousands of miles away, and waits for the result. The time required for that data packet to physically travel to a remote server and back takes orders of magnitude longer than the actual computation inside the chip. High-performance computing centers are bypassing this delay by adopting modular supercomputing architecture. Rather than renting remote time, they treat the quantum processor as a specialized local accelerator. They install it directly onto the floor alongside their traditional CPUs and GPUs. Direct integration hardware, like NVIDIA's NVQLink, allows these machines to push data back and forth with sub-4 microsecond latency. By physically wiring the classical and quantum units together, they operate in the lightning-fast continuous loop required to run complex chemical simulations and error correction protocols. Utility-scale supercomputing physically requires local hardware. The time spent transmitting data halfway across a continent makes cloud-based quantum computation mathematically inviable for advanced research. The other factor forcing organizations to buy their own hardware is hostile intelligence, specifically a threat known as Harvest Now, Decrypt Later. State-sponsored adversaries are actively vacuuming up highly encrypted cloud traffic today. They lack the technology to read it right now, but they are storing the data on massive servers with the explicit intention of decrypting it the moment fault-tolerant quantum computers arrive. For defense agencies and national laboratories, there is exactly one guaranteed defense against remote interception: the physical air gap. They completely sever the machine from the global internet. This physical isolation also stops localized espionage. Researchers have demonstrated that attackers can monitor the minor fluctuations in power consumption or electromagnetic radiation coming from a cloud-connected unit. Using that data, they can reverse engineer the highly proprietary circuits running inside. Placing a quantum computer inside a corporate basement was impossible a decade ago. Today, miniaturized, room-temperature neutral atom systems and rack-mounted units slide directly into standard data centers. Private enterprises like the Cleveland Clinic are buying these machines outright and deploying them on-site to protect sensitive R&D and drug discovery data. If adversaries possess quantum decryption capabilities, digital firewalls fail. Thick concrete walls and complete network isolation are the only defenses left. This migration off the cloud and into the basement is redrawing the global economic map. It is driving a new geopolitical strategy called sovereign quantum. Governments are abandoning the software-first approach of Silicon Valley to build localized quantum corridors. The University of Chicago operates as the physical anchor point for an entirely new 263-mile dark fiber network designed to link specialized hardware laboratories together without touching the public internet. Building machines locally requires physical supply chains. Regions are actively acquiring specialized laser, cryogenic, and semiconductor firms, required to achieve total independence from foreign manufacturers. In the Midwest corridor alone, this push for localized production is projected to generate $80 billion in economic impact. As this globe spins, you can see distinct, heavily funded hardware clusters replacing the idea of a borderless digital cloud. Texas is linking its quantum R&D directly into traditional semiconductor fabrication plants. France is pouring its funding into a tightly controlled, highly localized geographic zone known as the Paris-Saclay cluster. The public cloud will serve as an access point for students, academics, and developers learning to write quantum algorithms. But the execution of high-stakes, production-grade simulations will happen behind closed doors. The experimental phase of quantum computing has concluded. We are now pouring concrete for the infrastructure of the next century. The true computing power of this era won't float in a public cloud. It will be bolted to a floor, operating entirely in the dark.